being black is more than that. And when people do that, they reduce us, especially as women, to just the way that we look or our physical features. I'm like, it's deeper than that. So I think those people have a lot to account for. And as Linda said, they can't just be saying in this day and age, well, I didn't know, or it's not harmful, because it is harmful. Because people who are getting brand endorsements, they're going with people like Rita Ora or Emma Hallberg, the influencer, because they're like, oh, we're being diverse because they're kind of mixed, they can pass, and it takes it away from people who are actually fitting into those demographics.
Hi, I'm Anissa.
I'm Sophie.
I'm Linda E.
And I'm Luanda Yasmin, and welcome to the 11th episode of Ethnically Speaking. We are four intelligent, curious, opinionated, highly melanated women here representing the UK. We're going to be talking about everything and anything affecting our communities, from pop culture to politics and everything in between. So forget tiptoeing around subjects and technically speaking, because today we are ethnically speaking. So, Anissa, what has been on your mind since the last time I saw you?
Okay, so you guys know Rita Ora, right? The R.I.P. love song singer. Okay, so she had, both of her parents, should I say, are from Albania, so they're white Albanian. But she has recently come under fire on Twitter for blackfishing. So for those who don't know what blackfishing is when you use makeup or Photoshop or cosmetic surgery to appear like you have black or mixed race features, or if you're black or mixed race heritage, okay? But Rita isn't the only celebrity that's been accused of this. Of course, we've had the Kardashians, Ariana Grande, that Instagram influencer, Emma Hallberg. They all appear to have black features, even though they're of European ancestry. So my question is to you girls, when it comes to celebrities, Instagrammers, influencers, are they appropriating or appreciating when it comes to black features?
I think appreciating black culture is actually a lot harder than appropriating black culture. And I say that because black culture is one of the most marketable things on this planet Earth, and mainstream culture is full to the brim with black culture. Although when it is in mainstream culture, it's not always presented as being attached to black people, and most of the time it's of more value when it isn't. And I think that it's really easy to fall under that cultural appropriation category, because black culture is not really considered popular culture until it is adopted by non-black people. And because black culture sells so well, I can only imagine the amount of encouragement artists would have to adopt it. But as an adult, I find it really difficult to believe that people don't see these double standards, because black artists are encouraged all the time to physically cater to white audiences. I mean, we talked about in episode 2, Alexandra Burke having to listen to people encouraging her to lighten her skin, and we see most of the times in more industries than just the entertainment industries. You know, last week we talked about Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama. You have to have straight hair to have a certain amount of success. So it's interesting to see adults kind of be okay with this, because white creatives get to swim in all these rivers whilst black creatives are paddling in an overcrowded lake. So it's absolutely possible to appreciate black culture, and cultural appreciation is a thing that exists, but I don't think it's a thing that we're talking about right now, because if you appreciate it, wouldn't you just leave it alone? Wouldn't you want to be elevating the people that it originated from instead of using them as accessories for personal gain?
And I think that's such an important point, Luanda, in terms of wouldn't you be wanting to lift up the people in that culture? Because for me, if you're going to be doing this, are you standing with us when we have the injustice? Are you the first person talking about why we can't get proper healthcare? Are you doing more than posting a black square on
Don't get me
Instagram.
started
For
on
me,
the
it's so,
squares.
like, the thing is, if you really feel for the culture, if you're like, I'm so down for the Black culture that I want to appropriate your features and get fillers and to cosmetically enhance my buttocks, then be down for us, because what we're really seeing is people having the privilege to be able to put it on, and if it doesn't serve them, take it off. And that's the thing that I don't like, because you can take all the money that comes from it, from brand endorsements, but when it comes to being in a neighborhood and people don't want you on your doorstep because you're Black or whatever, are you saying anything then?
Exactly. And I think part of it is as well with cultural appropriation, people aren't paying homage or, literally acknowledging where these things have come from. For example, when Kim Kardashian does these Egypt things that they call box braids or whatever they call them when they're cane rolls, she has a mouth. Instead of her to open her mouth and be like, no, these are actually cane rolls, but they're from such and such, she just takes the praise. People be like, oh, these Bantu knots. I don't know what they call them, Bantu knots. Now I tell them they call them something else. Oh, they're so exotic. No, just stop and say these aren't actually what you think they are. Like, I think if more creators and influencers and celebrities would actually say, no, actually, this thing that you're celebrating me for actually comes from such and such, then I would see it as cultural appreciation. But because they just stay silent, they take the praise and they keep it moving. And like Sophie said, they have the privilege to take off those accessories when it pleases them. Because let's not lie, your skin tone, even if you're tanning it, or what was that woman that was doing injections so her skin could be darker?
Oh yes,
babes.
What?
Babes, yeah. Some
Did you see
woman
her
like
this
that.
morning?
It was crazy. She was actually taking shots. Yeah, taking a shot so
Yeah.
her skin could be darker. I'm just like, but babes, at the end of the day, you miss one of those shots, you're going to go back to your natural skin tone, which will still give you the privilege you were born with. So for me, it's just, I think the majority of things that I'm seeing are appropriation.
Yeah, I agree, but when I'm starting to look at these celebrities and stuff like that, when I'm thinking about appropriation, I'm trying to figure out, like, for some celebrities, I feel like the appropriation is happening at the individual level. Like, they're very conscious of what they are doing and what they're emulating or what pieces they're taking. But other celebrities, I feel like it's not like an individual problem. I think it's like a little bit wider than that, and kind of go with me where I'm going here. Like, so take
us with you, girl.
Yeah,
Take us with you.
this is where I've been thinking about it, because if you like Black features or Black culture, it started to book up. It got a little popular and it became trendy. Okay, and whenever we have a trend, here comes Mr. Capitalist, the Mr. Mass Media, and they take a hold of it and they commodify it. So just like as Luanda was saying, like, this is something that is sold and bought. So these people are buying it, whether it's through cosmetic surgery or makeup or Photoshop, and it makes them, and I'm not saying it's right, but I think for some of them, it gives them a false sense of entitlement. Like, oh, like, because I bought it, this identifies to me. This is a part of me. Like, this is an extension of myself, the evolution of my glow up or whatever it is. And they think, like, I think they think like that because when they look at their peers, everybody else is doing it because that's what they see in pop culture, and they may have people around them that then validate what they're doing. So like with Rhea Ora, of course, we saw her with, we've seen her with box braids, we've seen her in a little blonde afro, and we know that she has Black friends because we see her toting around with the Black friends all the time, and so they are obviously validating what is for her. So I think with a lot of these celebrities, they think, oh, what I'm doing is trendy. They're not 100% thinking this is directly from Black culture. Sometimes I think they think this is trendy, and I think that's where the media plays a part of it. So then I think, okay, the media, we know, is the number one cultural appropriator, but sometimes it's not down to the individual. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
But you know what? I feel like it's always down to the individual. Do you know what it is? I feel like, do you know why? As individuals, especially in the age we're living in, we have access to so much in information. And I think, yes, the mass media is terrible. It is what it is. But if you are really a sane, serious somebody, you're going to do your research. No, but you know what I mean? I think so many of our issues that we say, oh, but it's the media, we have a duty to actually look for this information ourselves, to actually do our research. And I think people are just naturally lazy and happy to, place the blame elsewhere. Oh, I didn't know it was cultural appropriating because Vogue put it in their September issue. I just thought it was a hairstyle. So I think people are just so quick to have the blame elsewhere. It's still down to the individual.
I look, for me, I don't think that I agree with what you're saying in part, and Lisa, that, well, in fact, do I don't know if I do, actually, because people like Rita Ora, she was on like the Breakfast Club saying how, oh yeah, like a lot of people think that I'm black and I'm fine with that because it's gotten me places. And for me, I'm just like, well, if that's what you think, like, you feel like you can siphon down being black to our hair or the shade of your skin or bigger lips or rolling with black people or music, and it's like racial fetishization because you think that that's what being black is. It's being those few things. So if I have big hair, then yeah, I could pass as mixed race. I kind of am black. And that's what she said on the Wendy Williams show. So for me, I'm like, being black is more than that. And when people do that, they reduce us, especially as women, to just the way that we look or our physical features. I'm like, it's deeper than that. So I think those people have a lot to account for. And as Linda said, they can't just be saying in this day and age, well, I didn't know, or it's not harmful, because it is harmful, because people who are getting brand endorsements, they're going with people like Rita Ora or Emma Hallberg, the influencer, because they're like, oh, we're being diverse because they're kind of mixed, you know, they can pass, and it takes it away from people who are actually fitting into those demographics.
I agree. I don't disagree with you. I agree.
I hear that. I think that the whole blackfishing situation actually just points again to us always celebrating the lighter skinned or more racially ambiguous members of the black community, especially when it comes to women, because I think with black men in the entertainment industry or just in positions of power, they have more freedom to have darker skin, because on a black male, dark skin represents strength. But when it comes to women, dark skin represents masculinity, and that pushes you even further away from the beauty standards.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt, but let me just ask. So what do you think about the black men who are actually dating these women who have black features, and it's kind of like, well, they're not really dating black. Let's say for the Kardashians, for example, the guys that they date, at least a couple of them are routinely black. They date black men, and these black men are dating them, and they have black features. Do you think it's something that's appealing to these guys? And what do we think it's saying about them? Because I'm like, so you want a woman with black features, you just don't actually want her to be black.
Sophie, let's not lie, those guys are a mess. Let's just be very, very honest, okay? No, let's be real. No, let's keep it 100, right? Those guys are a mess. Like Mr. Kanye West, we've already seen what it is. I don't know, he's unraveling, his downfall. And I'm not just talking about since he's been with Kim. I think unfortunately since his mum died, a lot has happened to that guy. And if you go through Kim's historic partners, even Ray J's, like, you know, those men, I can't take them seriously. And it's not because they're dating those women. So don't get twisted. Women, do your thing in it, whatever. But it's the fact that they date these women, but yet they don't lift up black women. That's why I can't take them seriously. And if you think about Kanye, you don't see that thing where he had his rally and he hugged some white woman, and then a black girl asked him a question, and he started berating this black girl, like going at her. But it's like, hold on, you're just holding. You were hugging the other white woman who interrupted you as well. You brought her on stage to hug her, but when a black sister came to interrupt you, all of a sudden your guns came out and you had stuff to say. And that's why I think the men that did them, they're a mess. They are a mess. And I think the psyche, I just feel like too many people are living with trauma, and they've not been able to identify it, and therefore not been able to work towards the root of it and to make themselves whole again. Because babes, me that loves my mum, I love my dad, I can't now come and tell you, black men, no, but give me a white man that has a broad nose and I'm all that's not the life I'm living.
Linda, I definitely pick up with you to even answer that question to Sophie. I do think a lot of them are living in trauma. And if you take, for instance, obviously Chloe's ex-husband Lamar, he came out and said last year, I don't have healthy relationships with black women. For a long time, I didn't date black women because I didn't know how to love them. And he was just basically he had negative experiences, so he just stayed away from all black women and he just didn't love them. But now, and then he said he went through some healing. Now the woman he's engaged to is a black woman, and he's like, this is where he should have been, and blah blah blah. So there is a lot. There is a lot of trauma because Lamar spoke to that trauma. Obviously, Kanye. Kanye. But like, if you take, for instance, even like Tiger, when we all knew that he was messing with Kylie, he told us as black people we didn't understand the concept of what a friend was. When it was like, no, we know what friends are, but that's not what you and this little girl is. And so what I'm saying is there was just a lot. I think they're just trauma. There you go.
I think on the topic of trauma, I think when you have real relationships, because I know that like any of us who's been in long-term relationships or just healthy friendships as well, when you have those healthy relationships, they will help you address the trauma. We're not going to swerve it. If we see some things there, we'll work through it together, but we're not going to pretend like it doesn't exist, you know? And that, again, for me, Sophie, in terms of asking about, like, you know, those black men with these women, it goes back to valuing black features when it's not on black people. And this is why I said why it's so easy for, especially when it comes to women, for people to be blackfished, because they look like the version of a black woman that we're so used to seeing. We're so used to seeing black women with the are they, aren't they features and the are they, aren't they skin tones. And so when, like I said, when you have like a non-black woman with a good tan, a curly perm and a bandana, it's very easy for her to pass, because this is the type of black woman that we're being presented with. And it's not to say that, you know, black men don't have their issues with representation. It's just that they have more permission to be every shade at every stage of success. And with black women, you can be racially ambiguous and you can be biracial and you're still a black woman, but we are not represented as diversely as we exist.
Well said, Yolanda.
Yeah, and I think on that thing that you said in terms of like the idea of passing, like I think this whole blackfishing is funny because you see it flipped on its head now, because before it was black people trying to pass as white, but they were doing it because not only because it gave them benefits, but to save their lives. Like
to survive.
Your life could literally be, you could literally be killed because of your skin tone, but now we have white influencers and celebrities profiting on it because it's getting them somewhere, and it's just not okay for me.
It's not okay. But ladies, I've got a slightly different train of thought now, because we're talking about Kardashians and relationships, right? And I'm just going to go slightly left with this one. During lockdown, unfortunately, weddings, you know, these huge traditional weddings that we know, any of our highly melanated people listening, you know about them big weddings. They have been a no-no during lockdown, right? And, you know, but people are still getting married, which I think is absolutely beautiful. But I just wanted to know, what do you guys think about, you know, women taking men's surnames when they get married? Do you think this is, you know, a archaic, misogynistic kind of ritual? Do you still think it's a beautiful thing? Are you planning to do so? Have you done so? Like, what do you ladies think on this?
Do you know what? I was reading an article on this website called The Lily, and it talked about where this idea of actually changing your name as a woman came from. And it kind of blew my mind. So they were saying in like 12th century England, like there would be a lot of people, let's say, for example, who had the name Robert, but when they wanted someone to kind of inherit the land or the house or whatever, they wouldn't be able to tell which Robert in the town. So they said, let's add a surname so that we can know exactly which Robert we're talking about. So then when something is given to Robert, we know that everything under his surname is his property. So then you have women who go from their father's surname to their husband's surname because it's a transfer from her father's property to her husband's property. And it does have misogynistic undertones. That's what I'm trying to say. There are misogynistic undertones. And I don't know if I think about it like that in this day and age. And I don't think a lot of women do. So I would think that it probably comes down to personal choice and whether you actually want to take the name. I have a very personal story about this, guys, but let me let someone else speak and then I'll come back. I'll come back.
Yeah, I guess I've never thought about it. And I know that sounds strange, but I just have never thought, will I keep my surname? Will I not? Because I don't know, like, my surname has been my name my whole life. But I guess I won't understand how attached I am to it until I'm put in the position where I have to unattach myself. So it's kind of hard for me to say. And, like, it's not like the name won't go on. I've got so many brothers, like, they'll carry the name. Do you know what I mean? I think for me, it will really be... because it's not an act. It wouldn't be like, for me, it'd have to be a vanity thing. And I know that sounds crazy, but my name is like short and sweet and it sounds good. And that's how I present to myself. But
rolls off the tongue like.
Yes, exactly. And if unfortunately my partner's surname, I would feel is a difficult name. And I know that sounds even crazy to say. I just don't know if I take it.
What do you mean by a difficult name, Anissa?
Let me just say.
Are you talking about original African surnames. Is that what you're telling me right now?
No, Linda, because it's not only African surnames that are long or have lots of letters, and that's not what makes it difficult. Let me not say that either. I'm talking about like pronunciations. Like, do you know how many times people look at Nicole Scherzinger's name and go Scherzinger, la la la, Scherzinger, la 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 la? I wouldn't want to be Anissa Scherzinger. I just would not want to do that. Do you know, like, that's just my personal preference. I would just want a name that sounds good, and I think like. It's a tough one. I would just want a name that sounds good. And I think if I take it from like my mum, not to put her business on Front Street, but you know, when she got married to my dad, obviously she took my dad's surname, right? Then her and my dad got divorced and she got remarried again, but she kept my dad's surname. So she, even though her and my dad have been divorced my whole life, she still had my dad's surname, and she always said, because it just sounds good. I like the way it sounds. And so I think that has been, I honestly think that has been drummed in my head, like, oh, I just like the way it sounds. So I think that's why, for me, it's a bit of a difficult one. But so it really depends on how good it sounds. And that sounds so vain, but literally, until I'm faced with it, I don't know how deep it will go for me.
Right.
You sit in your truth, girl. You sit in your truth.
I can't be
Literally, we all have our reasons, but I think for me, because I have Caribbean heritage, I look at surnames just a little bit differently. I've never been particularly attached to my surname because I know that when African people were brought over to Jamaica, where my family is from, as slaves, their surnames were taken away from them, and so most slaves had the surname of their owners, of their masters, and after slavery was abolished, they would then choose their own surname. So they would name themselves maybe something that's in relation to the plantation, because, you know, a lot of families were separated because they could do that. So they were hoping, you know, maybe now that we're all free, we can find each other again, and you'll maybe be able to find me if I name myself where we were both born or something like that. So for me, I don't really have any intention. I have thought about it, to be fair, Anissa, and I know that if I was to get married, I wouldn't take a man's surname. It's just never been something that I've had the desire to do. What I want to do is, because I don't see myself as like entering as an attachment to your family, I see us as creating our own. So because I already don't have an attachment to my maiden name, I'm also not going to have an attachment to your name. I want us to create a new family name together because we're creating a new family.
My friend did that.
That's actually really beautiful.
Yeah, my friend did that when she got married. They took both of their surnames and they both legally changed it. So, for example, if she was Smith and he was Turner, they both became the Smith Turners.
I don't like that hyphenation business though. We're making
but it was cute that he changed his name. It was cute that he changed his name and she changed their name. So that
I feel what you're saying. I think that's the reason why I mentioned the thing about like my heritage, because I don't have any attachment to my surname whatsoever. So I don't need it to stay. I don't need to be hyphenated. It just doesn't need to be here. It just doesn't. We'll make a whole new name from scratch. Like, let's get the drawing board, the pens, the pencils. We'll make it today.
Do you know what? I think that is so beautiful, and like for me personally, I wish because I'm definitely marrying my boyfriend. I'm just saying that, putting out there right now.
Hey, I approve this message. He's very handsome. Thank you. You guys are a very attractive couple. I approve. I'll be at the wedding.
Don't you guys gas me? Don't gas me right now, please. Yeah. But you know what? I wish he would want to make up a surname, because I know he'll be like just side-eyeing me. But to be honest, for me, it's you know what? My kind of reasoning kind of stems from what Luanda has said. For me, I've been very lucky that my surname and my boyfriend's surname are both our traditional surnames. We were never changed. So it doesn't mean that we necessarily weren't, our lineage didn't go into slavery at any point, but the most recent history that we have in terms of the last few generations of both our families have their original African surnames. And for example, my surname's Ogwekwe. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, what power?
It must be nice.
You know? But like, my surname's Ogwekwe, and I'm Linda E, and I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be weird to not be Linda E, but I'll still be Linda E, you get me? But my surname means don't let fear control you. So when I think of like the power, you know it, man. I think the way
Yes, girl, yes.
You know? So when I think of some of their surnames, like, I can't remember what my boyfriend's surname means, but when I just think of some of the power that derives from them, I'm just like, yeah, like, and for me, because my parents, you know, they're very traditional, and my boyfriend's parents are very traditional. For me, I'm like, yeah, when I get married, I'm taking that surname. But I like what Jay-Z did with Beyonce, and I hate to mention them, but when they got married, because Beyonce's dad at the time had no male children, Jay-Z took on both names, so they are Knowles Carter. So that the Knowles, I just think it's just
it's cute.
It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. Yes, and it's nose cutter.
That's nice.
So cute.
So let me tell you guys. So for me, I always thought that I would change my name. I never even thought about it, like from a traditional black upbringing. Like it's kind of it's just kind of standard. It wasn't until I was engaged that I was just saying to my husband, actually, I don't want to give up my name. I realized how attached I was to it when I was engaged. I was like, my surname is the only surname I've ever had. For me, I realized this is like my first name. It would be like changing my first name because this is the only name I've ever had to be identified by. And it actually caused some friction because he's also very traditional as well. And he was just like, well, why wouldn't you take my name? He was just like, no. And for him, he would never even consider taking my name. I tried maybe we should merge them. And he was just like, nope, not gonna happen. So the end of the story is I never actually changed my name, and he's probably not still happy about it. But but for me, I just was kind of like I just realized that it was a really keen part of my identity. And to be honest, I think I will change it in the future because I do want our children to all have the same surname, and I wouldn't have my children take my surname. I'm just like, no, these are our children, and I don't know if I make a generalization, but for black men, it's very important for their children to have their name. It's like their legacy and their lineage. So for me, I wouldn't have an issue with that. But I feel like I didn't ever realize that I would be a sort of woman who would have a problem with it.
See, and that's why I'm thinking about how will I feel when I get into that situation? Because right now, and just even listening to Lawanda is maybe why, that's why I was like, I'm not really attached to my surname because, like Lawanda said, it was really, like, every time I look at my surname, for those who don't know my surname, I'm not going to say, every time I look at my surname, I am reminded of slavery. There is, like, no way for me to not look at my surname and think anything differently. I promise you, there is no other thing for me to look at and know. So when I see it, I'm just kind of like, I'm not bothered by it. So I'm not, like, it doesn't have this big meaning for me. So the only way I could change it is once again, it's so complex because now it's never had meaning to me. So I guess I wouldn't mind changing it unless it didn't sound the other surname.
As long as it sounds good.
Yeah. See, this is it's so complex because now I'm thinking about it because after Wanda said that, I don't have any attachment to my surname. So why would I keep it? Does that make sense? Now I'm just thinking it through. Sorry.
Yeah. But for me, in terms of children, Sophie, because you said it's important for them to carry on their legacy. For me, it's important that we create a legacy together. Who's being pregnant? Who's pregnant? Me or you? Who's pushing them out? Me or you?
Me.
What? Do you know what I'm saying? Like in terms of first names, one of my friends, we talked about this the other day, like, have you thought about kids' names and things like that? And she said she knows exactly what she's naming her children. And she said to her partner that he can name all of the kids that he pushes out. So I think sometimes we just got to take the power back, guys. I don't think it needs to be like mine or yours. I think it should be ours in every situation because it's a partnership,
I would really love that to be the case, but I think with the black men that I've dated, a lot of them, like I'd call my husband a feminist in some areas, but in some ways he's still kind of traditional. For the black men I've dated, I found them to be traditional in that sense as well. So if it is something that you feel strongly about, you really have to really stand and make a point and date somebody who's gonna be okay with it. And like there's a lot of alternatives. So like you said, making your own name, doing a double barrel, moving your last name to your middle name so that you feel like I don't have to let it go. Because Beyonce's name is actually her mum's maiden name. Beyonce, and she moved it into Beyonce because she didn't want to give up her maiden name. So
that's
are
amazing.
Alternatives for people who want to try and find a workaround.
That is so
Ladies,
cool.
another alternative question, right? Talking about all this being traditional and, taking last names, etc. How do you feel about proposing to a guy? Like, if you propose, would you then say, look, because I proposed to you, you got to take my surname?
Anissa cannot
do
shake
that.
her head
Nope. Nah.
I have to be
Not possible.
Not possible. I'm creasing.
Not in life.
Luanda, I want to know if you would do it because I feel
Yes,
like in some areas
I
you would
Luanda is the
definitely
one person that would say yes.
thinking woman on here. So would you propose to a guy, or is that bucket?
One step too far?
Too much womanism?
So the thing is with me, I'm at the point now where I don't know if I even want to get married. I'm definitely comfortable with monogamy, and I'm comfortable with long-term partnerships. I'll be happy to choose a life partner, but I don't know if marriage is something that I want. And that's because I just feel like I need to learn more about it and what it means, because I think it's actually more convenient to the government than it is for us and our relationships. We can make lifelong commitments to someone and the bank doesn't need to know about it, you know? So I think I just need to learn more about it and see if that's something that I really want before I make that decision. Because I know that for most of us women, we're taught to see marriage as a goal, and it's not a goal for me. Like, happiness is a goal for me, but marriage is not. And that's how we get ourselves into unhappy marriages, or you know, we get to like 35 and we're like, oh, time's ticking, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this, when actually, in fact, all you need to do is live your life to the truest form that it is for you. So for me, I'm still figuring it out, so I don't know yet. I know that I ain't proposing to no one, boy.
And at that statement, I just want to remind you that we are at the halfway point for today's show. And as always, we're going to tell you to take a minute to press that like button, press that subscribe button, so you don't miss anything that the United Melanin Group is bringing your way. So press right now. So today we've been talking about changes. So first of all, we talked about blackfishing and white European celebrities and influencers who are literally changing themselves and their features to appear black or mixed race. Then we talk about changing your surnames and whether it's something that women still want to do in the 21st century. But now I really wanted to talk to you about the changes that retailers are trying to make to buyers and customers. So Selfridges is the latest retailer to jump on the clothing rental bandwagon. The department store, Selfridges, is teaming up with Her, which is an online rental fashion platform. And together they're giving customers the opportunities to rent up to 100 items from 40 different brands for up to 20 days at a time. Now, you guys know fast fashion gets a really bad rap, and they're constantly saying that it's unsustainable. And what we're seeing with Selfridges is a move to try and attract younger and more ecologically minded buyers and consumers, especially during a difficult time in UK retail because of the coronavirus pandemic. But what I really wanted to do is get you ladies' thoughts. Like, what do you think of the concept of online rental fashion and buying and services? Like, is it something you've ever done? Is it something that you would ever do? And do we actually think it's a solution to fashion's sustainability problem and the cutting of purse strings and less money? Or do we actually think that they're trying to encourage women to keep up with the Joneses and to stunt with fashion that they actually cannot really afford?
Okay, well, for me, okay, would I ever do it? I don't know. That's the honest thing. And the reason why I'll say I don't know, because for me, the idea of this renter fashion, should I say, isn't like a new concept to me, because in my mind, or hopefully has been working outside of my mind, is like, when you think about celebrities or different things like that, a lot of the time, like, their stylists may borrow clothes and things like that. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, it's just another evolution of retail, but it's just opening it up to the wider public. So for me, the reason why I say I don't know if I would do it, because I'm thinking, everyday clothes, absolutely not. I could just go buy my everyday clothes. But if, for example, I wanted to do like a photo shoot or something, and I just wanted to put together this like really sick concept and visual, and I needed certain pieces, then yeah, I possibly could rent it for my photo shoot and then not. But the issue where I think it will come into this whole drip or drown kind of situation for some people is the purpose and the intent. The drip or drown, honey.
Yes, girl, that's a great statement. I love it.
That's what they'll
She's got so many one-liners. It's insane. I love you, girl. I love you so much.
Oh. Yeah, the reason why I think it will become an issue is people's intent or reason behind it. Because I think if you are using it to keep up with the Joneses or to make yourself look a different way on the internet, or for other people to perceive you in a different way, that's when it becomes a negative situation. Because for me, it'd be like, it would be unhealthy because it'd be like another addiction or obsession to me.
Yes.
You're so addicted with trends and fast fashion and people seeing you a certain way. You're obsessed with this idea that you would abuse the idea of, you know, your renter fashion. So that's what I think. For me, personally, I think it's something that could work, but it's all behind the person's intent who's doing it. So that's mine.
Anissa, I feel like you've just said everything I could possibly say because, like you said, like at first I was thinking I would never ever do that, but then I thought, hold on, if I've got one of these events to go to, and the thing about me is I'm so last minute in buying stuff, and it's not because I don't have the intention to do so, but sometimes life just gets busy and I forget to buy an outfit. So I'm thinking instead of me stressing about trying to get next to delivery or 12-hour delivery the day before, I swear I might just go rent something from Selfridges, you know, bop a nice outfit for that particular event and then bring it back. But I think you're right, it's the intention. And for me, my everyday clothes and even like I'd say 95% of the stuff I wear, even 99%, I can't really imagine renting. But you're right, celebrities do it all the time. They do it with cars, they do it with houses, they do it with jewelry, they do it with clothing. Like they are constantly renting. But I think it's, you know, we see them as, oh, they're rich, these are all the different garments they have and this and the other. But you're right, if someone does it to drip or drown and that, you know, obsession with drip life, because it is another obsession, it's, you know, I don't want to say acting your wage, because you know what, there's certain people that earn less than me that are better with money than me and therefore have accumulated more, which is fine. So it's not always about how much you earn, but it's that perception of, oh, you know, I've got this, I've got unlimited amount of garms and all of my garms are designer. And I think if you're doing it for that reason, then I feel for you, because it's just not a healthy kind of mind frame to have. But I might actually, you know, rent a nice garm for like an event. Like when I say event, I mean like a not a fashion show, but like an award show, or if I'm doing a red carpet, then let me get something real quick, real nice, real snazzy. And me, I'll probably say in the caption, rented from such and such, because sorry, ain't no one gonna come and tell me that I'm stunting for no one, you know. I will stunt when it's mine.
I think for me, like, this topic is so interesting for me because I'm someone, I love clothes, like I honestly do. Like, clothes are so personal to me. Like, it's about communication. It's the way that I communicate my mood, my thoughts, this is very personal for me. So when I first started thinking about this topic, I was like, I don't know if I could ever rent, because I don't like to part with my clothes. Like, I don't really get rid of them. And my friends laugh at me because I only ever buy things that I love. Like, if I don't love it, I won't buy it. Like, if I'm like, oh, it's okay, I just need a vest top, I won't do it. I'm just like, I have to love the vest top. So everything in my wardrobe, when I put it on, I feel kind of special because I know I love this when I put it on, and I love it when I love the way it makes me feel, I love the way it makes me carry. So I was firstly thinking renting and having to give it back, I don't know. But if you are going to an awards show and you can get a dress at like 10% or 15% of the value, then why wouldn't you do that? But my issue with it is that this new renting clothing seems to be pitched at rich women, because the clothes that they're trying to sell are high-end designers. So for me, it's just like, well, who are you really even marketing this at? You're marketing it at a very specific type of person. And when I looked at some of the websites, the only people they were advertising were slim, straight-sized white women. And a lot of them don't have a variety in sizes. So my wide hips aren't getting into it. And for me, I'm just like, it still feels like it's not actually trying to apply to the masses, but a very select few people who have a high disposable income.
Hopefully that will change, and hopefully this is the beginning of something that most brands will expand to. But in terms of the stunting thing, I think the type of people who want to stunt with things that they can't afford will find a way. Like, when there's a will, there's a way, and they will do it regardless of these renting schemes anyway. Because I don't know if you guys had this at school, but when I was at school, we had the EMA scheme, which meant that students from students from a household who were earning a certain amount of money could get a weekly allowance. So obviously this was supposed to be for like underprivileged kids to, you know, get essential items like lunch and books and pencils, sharpeners, all of those things. All of my friends that were on the EMA scheme, bar one person, spent it on trainers and alcohol. So I think that the type of people who want to look like they're living a certain lifestyle we'll find a way to do that regardless of whatever schemes are available to us, you know. But I think for me, this is the first time that I'm hearing about something like this, which is why I said I hope it will expand. I hope because I think it would be a brilliant idea for me. My friends and I always used to go to like upcycle events where you can bring things that you don't want and you can exchange them for other people's pre-loved items, and that's like great in terms of sustainability, but in terms of personal fashion doesn't really go a long way. So I would always find myself struggling to find things, like you said, Sophie, that I loved, and I'll find things I'm like, yeah, it's all right, I guess, but it's nothing that I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about this. So in terms of fashion, I actually want to care about, and I actually that I would shop for, it would be great to be able to rent it, and then instead of wearing it once and having it sit in the bottom of my wardrobe until I do a clear out in 3 years, be able to give it back so that someone can use it again.
I was just thinking, because I can imagine myself doing it for like a photo shoot or something, but it'd have to be with an asterisk that I was the first person. And I know that sounds weird, but
I agree with you, Anissa.
Yes, I have a really odd thing about wearing clothes that other people have been in.
Yes.
And it's
You
weird.
wouldn't share my clothes? You wouldn't share my clothes? You came around to my house?
It's not personal. It's just
Snap.
It's really, I just feel weird about it. It's Louisa, don't make me lie to you, girl. I do not want to lie to you. Okay. The thing is,
don't make me lie to you.
It's weird to say because me and my twin sister share clothes, but I don't see her as a separate person or like an extension of myself. But for me, like all my sisters are older than me, even my twin sister. But my older sisters are like gaps older than me, and they all have different body sizes, so it was never like I was borrowing their clothes or got hand-me-down, so I was never used to really having anybody else's clothes than mine. And then a couple of years ago, I think when I was in college, it got really trendy to be like vintage shops and secondhand clothes. Go down Shoreditch and Petticoat Lane, you know, go get something at Petticoat Lane, and so all my friends would do it. I was thinking, yeah, I could go down to Petticoat Lane and get some stuff. And we were in the store, and my stomach was I couldn't physically do it. It was not in me. It was like my spirit said,
girl,
no,
you're too
Elisa.
funny.
No, it was like my spirit said no. I said, I actually can't buy this stuff. I cannot. And all my friends bought it, but it was just, I could not do it. And it's not because I'm some sort of elitist, but it was just like, I don't know these people's bodies. I don't know if this person died in it. I don't know if there's vibes in it. I don't know. So I couldn't. And that's
do you know what?
I'm going back and forth.
You know what? See Anissa's experience. I had the exact same experience. I don't know on the exact same day, yeah. But my sister was doing this whole vintage thing. I was like, okay, let's try it, right? So we went down to like Brick Lane, yeah. We went into this vintage shop. As soon as I stepped in, a bad mood took over me. Yeah. So and it was one of those where like you fill up a bag. I swear down, you're supposed to fill up a bag for like £5 or £10, yeah. And she was going around happy as Larry, and I was just fuming.
What?
That was the exact experience.
My friends and I used to thrift shop all the time, and then when Macklemore released Thrift Shop, I was like, I feel seen. I feel seen. Someone's heard me.
But that's the thing. I think in terms of like the thrift shops, and I think it is a very personal experience about how you feel in clothes and whether you want to wear other people's clothes. So I definitely get that. I think in terms of like the fashion sustainability side, they're saying that they don't even know if clothing rental is going to be fashion sustainable, because they're saying everything, like you guys were saying about is it clean? They're saying every item needs to be dry cleaned, and they're like dry cleaning uses up a lot of energy. They went to send it to people, and for them to return it, they went is also using up a lot of time, a lot of fumes into the world. They're saying like to deliver something costs £44 worth of carbon into the atmosphere. Like the facts on this stuff is insane. So they're saying we don't actually know if this is going to be sustainable, and it makes me feel like the people who are doing it, or the companies, I think they're just trying to turn a buck like on clothes that they know is probably are not selling. So if we get it out to rent, and they're saying if you put a serious tear or hole or stain in it, you have to pay the full price of the item. And people are borrowing things that are like £2,000, £3,000 for a fraction of the cost. And personally, I don't want to be left with that cost. So I don't think it's as straightforward as they're trying to make it seem like, oh, we're trying to be ecological, but there's a lot of things going on in the background.
To be honest, when I heard of it, it reminds me of a clowner.
What is it?
say, Klarna, if I'm correct, is like on ASOS, they have it as well, where you can part payment for things. So you can buy something and then make regular payments over 3 or 4 months. And I was actually really upset. I was really upset when I saw that on ASOS, because I'm like, you're actually encouraging people who don't have money and might not be able to pay this to get themselves caught up in this payment plan, and they could be signed up to you for a dress they've worn once for 4 months. I'm like, it's insane.
I'm personally never going to rent something that I can't afford, but I think from an environmental standpoint, it in my brain, I'm thinking it has to be better. Like, how can it not be better? Because the most damaging thing that fast fashion can do is mass production. And that's because of how much water it takes to create clothes. Like, to make one cotton t-shirt is 700 gallons of water, which means that one person can have 8 cups of water every day for 3.5 years for that same amount. And if you make a pair of jeans, that's 2,000 gallons of water, which means 8 cups a day for a whole decade. So, you know, there have been there's like the Alar Sea in Uzbekistan, which over 50 years of cotton production dried up and was one of the largest lakes in the world. And now it's just small ponds here and there. So I think, like, if you're reducing the production, it has to be better. And I know that, like you said, it could just be, you know, for money, like this just could work out with our lesser sold items and things like that. But I think as it expands and as it gets to the more affordable retailers, then they're actually going to have to think about this stuff, because they know that they have eco-friendly customers and people who want to have sustainable fashion. Like, that is what most of my generation is focused on now. So you have to cater to that. And we're going to background check, so do it right.
But I was going to say that just to correct on one thing, because I read it yesterday and I would have thought the same, that it was about mass production is the biggest waste, but they're saying it's actually the delivery. So people who are ordering next day and delivery, they are actually the ones putting up the most economic, or the most affecting climate change. Isn't even mass production, it's delivery. So this is a wide problem that we need to think about from all angles, because it's really affecting our community.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, fast fashion like contributes to 10% of carbon emissions of all humanity, 10%, and the second largest water sources is fast fashion as well. So it's crazy.
I love next day delivery, and now
me too. I paid for a year. I love it. Honestly, I love it.
I'm a whore for next day delivery.
Me too.
I'm
not imagine Amazon.
In my head, I'm like, you're not just delivering my items, you're delivering lots of other stuff as well.
Yes, isn't that what they do?
No, but I don't want to do it.
The one that came down very fast on that high horse of sustainability.
I hate it. Because for me, like, I was so focused on the water, and then you was like the delivery, and I was like, damn.
Yeah,
damn
like it hit me too.
Can I catch
it hit
a
me
break?
too, because they said it's better to bulk buy. I'm going to a wedding in a couple of weeks, guys. I've ordered like 7 next day deliveries. It's a joke. So yeah, anyway. It's
damn. Okay. Well, you know, we're all working on it. We're all trying our best to do what we can for the planet. But speaking of renting and lending, there has been a viral video of Melania Trump refusing to lend a hand to her husband Donald after he outstretched his arms. So it got me thinking, obviously in that relationship there's a lot more going on than just not wanting to have a PDA, but I wondered what you guys are comfortable doing in terms of public displays of affection. How far are you comfortable going, and how far are you comfortable witnessing?
Do you know what? Yeah, I'm really comfortable with PDA. I remember, I think
that
it was
does not surprise me.
Nobody's surprised. I'm not gonna lie, do you know what? On our second date, right, my boyfriend and I, we had walked down from Edgware Road, and for once, neither of us. Girl. Listen, without keep it PG, neither of us had driven, so we're both getting on public transport, and I think we stopped at like Marble Arch tube station, and we went in for this big snog session, and people started clapping for us. Like we were doing it in the movies.
Baby, make that baby.
But do you know what it is though? For me, I've always been a person where the way I am, I'm very, what's the word? I'm very,
tactile.
not just no, as in, like, I'm very, open. I'm very open. My emotions flow through my body. They flow through my face. You know, when I'm with someone, however I feel for them, it flows through my body. And I've always been very comfortable with PDA. Obviously, being mindful of which surroundings I am. Like, if I'm, you know, with like all my aunties and uncles, I'm not going to be, you know, rubbing off his face. But, you know, a touch here, a touch there, you know, a stroke here. Like, I'm very comfortable with those things just because that's how I've naturally been. And luckily, my partner he might not be as comfortable as me, but you know, he does these little, you know, little hand things. So I think it's just, I love it. And when it comes to seeing PDA, I won't lie, it's sometimes awkward. If you see a couple kissing, you do kind of want to look away. But I just love seeing people being affectionate. So if I see like a couple holding hands, or you know, I don't know, I just love to see little displays. I love it. I love love. I love romance. I can't help it.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet.
And he's just like, that's sweet, but I can't relate.
Because it's really tough, because I hear myself in Linda, but then I also know myself, okay? Because I am a person where the emotion just flows out of me, right? I'm like an amorous person, like an affectionate person. Like I love love. And that is how I am, but only in the confines of my house. It's like as soon as my big toe crosses the line,
only behind closed doors.
I can't do it. And do you know what? It's so many reasons. One, I've said this a few times on here, but I'm a big prude. I am such a prude. It's actually unbelievable. Like, I'm even going to give you a snippet of it. I'm such a prude, guys. I can't even watch kissing scenes in TV shows. I have to fast forward. I cannot do it. I can't. It makes me uncomfortable. I just can't do it.
Anissa, what kind of shows are you watching? Because every show that I watch is like some
kissing.
No, sex scenes. Exactly. They're wild these days,
exactly,
guys.
Luanda. And so that's why I have to fast forward. I can't do it. There is something that makes me ridiculously uncomfortable. I am just a prude. So when I walk outside my door, that prudish behaviour comes over me. So when I see public displays of affection, I'm just like, I can't even function. I don't even understand how it's happening. Do you know what I mean? Not to say that I've never had public displays of affection. When I was younger and there was a lot of alcohol involved, then it's a whole different situation. But a sober older Anissa is not doing public displays of affection. When I'm in the house, we can be affectionate. It's important for me to have a man that's affectionate, but only affectionate in the house. When we're on the street, I don't mind if we're doing street soldier.
So no hand holding. No hand holding. You're not linking arms.
She did not.
No, but honestly,
I'm not really like a link arm, hold hand kind of girl. I just not. Maybe in the house, but not outside in the street.
They're spudding. You're spudding, innit?
Give him a salute. Give your soldier a salute when it's on his way.
Exactly. Just that nod, like. No, the thing is, I don't know what it is, guys, but even if I physically would want to, there is something that my body won't physically allow me to do. The prude just comes over me. I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all different. We're all different, right? I think for me, like, in terms of public displays of affection, I think they're one of two ways, right? So in terms of Linda, I think you've got your honeymoon stage, or like you literally genuinely can't keep your hands off each other, and sometimes, you know, a snogging situation where you get an applause from strangers, it happens, right? But then on the flip side, I think you also have like performative PDA, and what I mean by that is you either have people, couples who are insecure in their relationships and feel like they need to prove something to the outside world, or they are marking their territory, right? I remember one time that I was at a party with my friends, and I went with one friend, so I knew one person in this whole house party. But you know me, I speak to everyone, very friendly. It doesn't stop a girl. I'll find a group of people, I'll integrate it, and we'll be talking. I was talking to a group of people there, and we were just chatting about whatever we were talking about. But then I needed the bathroom, and I said, I don't know whose house this is. Whose house is this? Because I need to use the toilet. I don't want to use the toilet. I want to ask permission, and I want directions to where it is, right? And they said that guy over there is his house. I'm like, okay. So I just went to him to ask him where the toilet is. His girlfriend made her way from across the other side of the room to come and kiss his face right in front of me to let me know that her man was taken, when all I wanted to do was release my bladder. So when those kind of things happen, I just feel like you're insecure because you don't feel like they're going to be loyal to you, and you think you need everyone else in the room to know that you're together, when really it should just be between the two of you, right?
I fully get you on that one. I think there are some people like that. And I was reading an article and they're saying like some people who might even be close to breaking up might in public show more affection so people don't actually know what's going on in their relationship. And we've seen it with like celebrities. 1 minute they're on the red carpet and next month they're like, oh, they broke up. And you're just like, but I literally used to be at the Brit Awards, like all over each other. So I think people do it. I think for me, I'm like, I like hand holding in public. I have a little hug. I'll have a peck, but no tongues. Like I'm not here for that. It makes it. I'd just be like, what are you doing? And my husband's very funny because he's very tactile in private. In public, you would think he was like a different person. I think for him, he's just like, we never did that public thing right there. But in private, he'll be like, let's hold hands, let's hug, let's this, let's that. But in public, I literally, sometimes I'll just kiss him in public just to freak him out. Because he'll be like, take the kiss then, take the kiss. But he's not down for it. So it makes me laugh.
Oh my days.
I do.
Oh my days.
But you don't have a tactile person. But when you're in public, it's just like, I don't know what comes over me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind if people, I think if you're getting the affection that you need at home, like you don't need to prove anything. You don't need an audience, you know? But I think there's actually also something to be said in terms of like the privilege that's attached to who can have public displays of affection.
Yes, girl.
Because, you know, we're all
yes.
talking about heterosexual relationships and there are some people, you know, like earlier we said there are some people of color who have to pass as white to survive. There are also people who can't display their affection for their partners in public if they're the same sex or even if they're in an interracial relationship. I mean, I personally, I remember I had this friend who I was quite close to, and he was a white male. He was actually gay, but it's irrelevant because you can't look at him and be like, you're gay. You know what I mean? Like, so we're very comfortable with each other. So, you know, we'd walk around, sometimes we'd hold hands, but we'd always be together. We'd always be talking. We're just comfortable. But the looks that we would get, I'd enter into a space and I'd wonder why I didn't feel safe. Like, why are people making me feel like I'm not safe? And then I realized it's because they thought I was in an interracial relationship. So I think that there's also something to be said for, you know, same-sex relationships and interracial relationships, their PDA and what happens to them when they're doing public displays of affection.
You know, it makes me think about this book that I read by Florence Giving called Women Don't Owe You Pretty. Great book. I'd recommend to anyone. She's a feminist and she's bisexual. And she was talking about the reaction that she's gotten from people when she's been on a date with a woman. And she was just saying like she dare not hold their hands. They dare not kiss in public because she was at the range of... what's the word? The range of
hostility,
attention,
the range of attention that they get there when there's either guys who are just like, I'll do it again, it really turns me on, or people who are just like, they're afraid for their lives, or it's just not a safe space. And I didn't realize, and I was reading about an article in Advocate magazine or Advocate online, just how much PDA we take for granted as heterosexual people or people who date people of the opposite sex. And they were saying things like a back rub or a kiss on the cheek or like stroking someone's back, stroking someone's arm, moving an eyelash. They were like, these are things we have to overly think about as people who are attracted to people of the same sex, because you don't know what other people might do and what their reaction might be. So I think as much as we're talking about it and it's funny, I think we should also not spare a thought, but just be mindful of how of the privilege that we have in being able to show affection, even if we're going to get a hand clap at the train station when we're just getting that tongue kiss right there from Linda. Yes.
You know what I mean? Because how long do we have to wait for a same-sex relationship making out and having this hot, steamy make-out session being applauded? How many, you know what I mean? How many more years are we going to have to wait for that? We'll have people on the train telling their children not to look or being like, oh, you're in public, can you not do this? And things like that. So it is ridiculous. And I think for people who have the privilege of, like, I guess, flying under the radar, and I think if you're a person who dates the opposite sex, you're flying under the radar. If you are that kind of person, you need to pay attention to when it's your time to step in as an ally and stand up for people. Because there was even the case in London of those two women, a lesbian couple. They got beaten up. They were holding hands and they got beaten up, and it was ridiculous. And then
did they get beaten up by men?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was
gosh.
football hooligans.
Oh my
to be
gosh,
honest.
sorry.
Don't want to
Oh my
blame everything
gosh.
on the football hooligans, but I'm pretty sure it was.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, and then that's in a couple of weeks later, there was also a same-sex couple, 2 women again, who had stones thrown at them because they were kissing. So I think, you know, like I said, if we're ever a witness to these kind of things, we need to then step in and check people, obviously, and just like protect people where you can.
Yeah, I think for me, one time I was actually on the train, and as I said to you ladies, like I'm a Christian, and my faith is Christianity, and I was wearing this t-shirt. This was years ago, and it was Jesus Junkie, and it was these really cool, bright, loud jumpers.
I saw their hoodies.
I was just like, because it was cool, it was so funky, and I was on the train with these 2 women, and they were obviously a lesbian couple. And you know, like when you put on a t-shirt with a slogan or whatever, once you're wearing it, you're not really thinking about what you're wearing.
Don't think, of course. Of course.
And I saw these 2 women across from me looking really uncomfortable. Like they started fidgeting and just staring at me and just kind of looking to the side. And I was thinking, what is going on? Like, and I'm black, so I'm like, is it because I'm black? And blah, blah, blah. But then I saw them kind of looking at my jumper, and I could see that seeing Jesus Junkie and wearing like my faith on a jumper, for them, it was a thing of, we don't know how she's going to react. Like, we know that there are probably some Christians who are completely against us being together and are really, and like, we don't know if this is going to be a dangerous situation for us. And I think it was really interesting to see other people reacting to something that for me wasn't even a thought. I'm just like, I'm wearing a cool jumper, it's a nice color. But for other people, they didn't know if they were going to be in some sort of danger. So it's such a layered conversation talking about PDA in public.
For real. Yeah.
No, it really
it can
is.
be.
Sorry, I'm just taking
I mean, to take it all in, and he's just like, I'm taking it all in.
Because I just don't even, like, we're talking about people being beaten up. I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. This is what we all just got to check our privilege, guys, and just honestly just use it where we can, like use it to other people's advantage whenever we can, honestly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think in regards to public displays of affection, I think we've kindly deciphered in this group that it really is up to each to their own. Each to their own in regards. But like, Linda, I'm actually impressed that you got a round of applause. I know how shocking it is, but I've seen so many people make out in public and I've never seen them getting applause. So it really makes me think, what were you doing?
That's true.
Girl.
That's true.
She's an impressive kisser. She's a great kisser. What can we say?
It's because, like I said, the couple's so hot. Like, you're such a hot couple. That people are like, do it again. People made it OnlyFans for you.
Linda, was it raining? Was it
raining? What does that mean?
Like an R&B video when the rain's coming down and they're kissing in the rain. Honestly, I'm serious. It's like an R&B video. I'm telling you.
You guys are not serious, boy. You guys are not serious.
Okay. So thank you so much for watching episode 11 of Ethnically Speaking. We've loved every minute, and if you have to, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Now let's keep the conversation going. What do you think about PDA? Do you like, to kiss it up in public like our girl Linda, or do you like to keep it private like me? Let me know down below in the comments. For a summary of everything we've spoken about today, head over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES0011. There is a link in the description below. If you are watching it on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do not miss a thing. We'll be here at the same time next week. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe and stay alert.